Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Nelson. I am a consultant with Gatehouse, and today we're going to be talking about the Deferred MBA. My goal for the session is that by the end, you will know kind of soup to nuts what a Deferred MBA is, and you'll be able to determine whether it's something that's right for you. So again, I work for Gatehouse Admissions. We are a full-service boutique admissions consulting firm, and we work with a variety of clients, both on the deferred MBA path, as well as folks applying to regular full-time programs, executive programs, and more or less kind of any other aspect of the MBA journey. So a little bit about us. We were founded by Liza Wheel, who is one of the most highly rated admissions consultants. We partner very closely with every client that we've got. We deliver high-end white glove service, and we have a real focus on the M7. So all of our coaches have MBAs from Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton. I myself am a Wharton MBA. And we're very results focused. So 85% of our clients who've applied to Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton gain acceptance into at least one of these schools. And our clients are outperforming the market in receiving interviews and acceptances by 3%. So, sorry, 3 times the industry average. Okay, so today we're going to cover the 5 W's: what, why, where, when, who. So kind of lay out what a deferred MBA is and why you might or might not want to pursue that path. Then we'll talk about how to achieve success. So what steps you need to be taking. And then finally, we'll talk about some resources that we've got that might help you as you think about your own path. And at the end, we'll open it up for questions. So I would encourage you to put your questions into the comment section. I will do my best to keep reading through these. And at the end, like I said, I will do my best to answer as many of them as possible. But I would say if you don't have your question answered, please feel free to sign up for a free consultation with somebody on our team. The link is in the chat. It's also available on our website. And then you can, in that way, get more specialized, kind of bespoke answer that's, specific to you. Okay, so the what. Deferred MBA, it's an application process for either college students who are in their last year or for graduate students. It is something that folks apply to in their final year of studies. They then they apply to business school, they then go and work or research for a couple of years, and then come back to business school. And so effectively they're locking in their admission to business school early. All right. So the difference versus a typical MBA process is in the typical path, folks work after college, after university, and then apply to business school and attend relatively quickly within the following year. So they've already got that full-time work experience under their belt before they are applying. Okay. So let's keep moving. So why are business schools engaging in this deferred MBA process? And so think about it as business schools looking to take the best talent off the market, right? So if you think about it like employers, business schools are competing effectively for who they're going to have in their class. And the deferred MBA is effectively a weapon for them to accept now somebody who they think might be harder to get in a future round. So for what we call tier 1, which is Harvard and Stanford, their goal is really to pull in applicants who are not typical MBAs. We'll talk a little bit about kind of what some of those factors might be that make somebody non-typical, but they're effectively trying to get applicants who they may not see later down the path. And so that is one of the biggest challenges applying to Harvard and Stanford is if they think they're going to see you again in 3, 4, or 5 years, their desire to take you and to kind of lock you in and take you off the market is less. Tier 2, which is pretty much everybody else, slightly different viewpoint, right? They're really looking to scoop a superstar off the market. The sooner they can do that, the better. They know that, for those superstars that they admit through the deferred process, some of those people will come back later down the path and apply to other schools, but plenty of them will say, you know what, actually, I'm going to take the admit that I've got from this excellent school and not bother with any other applications. So it's a bit of a gamble because these schools don't know which of their deferred applicants, which of their deferred accepts will end up actually showing up later down the path. But ultimately, it's all just a competition for talent. Okay. So I won't go through all of these schools, but gives you a sense of the deadlines, which are more or less sometime in April, a little bit later than the standard round 2 deadline, closer in line with those schools that do have a round 3. And so these are just some of the top M7 schools. All right. So we talked a little bit about kind of who. So Stanford and Harvard, really tier 1, they are looking for absolute superstars, but they do have an interest in folks who have either lower socioeconomic background or first-gen college students, right? People who Harvard might not see or Stanford might not see later down the path. Those heading to operating companies, into entrepreneurial roles, technically demanding roles. Again, people who might go into their roles and just keep going, right? Not be looking for an MBA in 3, 4, or 5 years. So again, trying to effectively broaden the market of who they might see and who they might be able to admit. Everybody else is looking for superstars, right? So we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about what that means to be a superstar, but it's academic excellence, history of leadership and initiative, and really kind of an understanding of how are you going to put your mark on the world, and also a sense that tells us that you're going to be able to do that. And so I would say this idea of the impact that you want to have is something that runs through every MBA program. Pretty much you name it, whether it's executive program, full-time, deferred, business schools are looking to understand what is the impact that you want to have and how do we know that you can actually deliver it. But I would say in particular, it can be helpful to be able to kind of reference that as part of your deferred application. And it makes you stand out because a lot of folks applying out of university, out of college, will not be in a position to do that. Okay. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about what schools are looking for. And as I do, I'm going to ask you guys, I'm kind of curious where folks are thinking about, anybody online who's watching, where might you be applying? It's just useful to have a sense of. So in terms of what schools are looking for, it's academic excellence, right? So it's performance across all metrics, basically GMAT, GPA. It's showing that you challenge yourself, whether it's through coursework, whether it's writing a thesis, perhaps the dissertation if you're a grad student, proving that you have analytical abilities, that you're comfortable with numbers. Again, this is more or less the same as what regular MBA programs are looking for. Ways that you're going to demonstrate this is through a GMAT or a GRE. Schools are agnostic as to which you choose. GPA, letters of recommendation, hugely important, especially if you're applying in a pool of really competent, excellent people. It's, one way to stand out, either in a good way or a bad way. You can really shoot yourself in the foot with a kind of less than strong recommendation. And then obviously other aspects of the application, resume, essays, application. Okay. Also looking for leadership and initiative. So these can be traditional things that we think of, kind of formal leadership. You're on a board, you're a TA, you're a mentor or coach, but it can also be non-traditional things, right? It might be things in your community. It might be ways that you interact in your family, right? You have grandparents or siblings or kind of other ways that you're involved. The key is impact. And I mentioned impact as it relates to kind of thinking about your goals, but think about your impact in your community more generally, right? That's what business schools are looking for, is people who are leaders and people who drive impact, okay? The way that you can demonstrate this is through your essays, through videos, right? Some of these schools will have videos as a video component to their application, through resume, through short answers, which is what you kind of input into the portal. And again, through the letters of recommendation, which I cannot stress enough are crucial, okay? And finally, this idea of your mark on the world and kind of the impact that you want to have. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but have a sense of what is it you want to do? How will you benefit from an MBA, right? So think about kind of what you're looking to kind of achieve, and the impact you want to have. But then how is an MBA going to help you achieve that, right? And how do we know, how does your AdCom know that you're actually going to be able to be successful at doing it? Okay. So let's see. I see a bunch of you folks looking, kind of looking at T15. Okay. And some folks from India. So that's excellent. All right. Here's the key thing I would say for a deferred MBA program. Okay. They are generally very, very competitive because you have such an incredibly competitive pool of people. And again, the school's incentive for taking people off the market is low. Okay. So, it can be a really hard and challenging process, especially because folks applying for deferred MBAs tend very much to be sort of type A, eager beavers. And this might be the first time that folks will have failed. But the way I would try to think about it is, maybe the process works out for you, but even if it doesn't, you'll be prepared, both for the work that's to come. And if you, apply to business school again a few years down the line, you'll have a better sense of what the process is. And you can use these years to improve your profile. So, this question around leadership, around kind of what you've been involved in, around the impact that you want to have, clarifying your goals, kind of making sure that you're really a superstar, you can actually use this time to reflect on yourself and your goals and your impact, and then make sure that you're delivering. All right. So folks who are reapplying out of this pool tend to do very well. Again, makes sense, right? It's eager beavers. So, a lot of times we get questions from people who say, well, if I apply at deferred MBA and I don't get in, is that going to prejudice my ability to apply in the future? And the answer is absolutely not. Schools won't hold it against you. You will, for most schools, have to write a second essay or an additional essay that's kind of what's new. But in fact, it's just yet one more essay that you get to use to explain a little bit more about yourself, and another great opportunity to showcase kind of what you've been up to. So this is really a place where you want to push yourself and keep an open mind and see this as an opportunity to grow, rather than just an opportunity to succeed or to fail. Okay. So now the part that everybody's been waiting for, okay? How to achieve success, okay? So we've kind of listed it out, early winter, winter through spring, and then spring, okay? So ideally, folks applying this year would have already gotten their test done, right? Your goal for whichever test you take is the median, right? That's always the safest place to be. Higher is better, but the median is a really good target. You want to connect with your recommenders. You want to ensure you've got kind of leadership activities lined up, and you want to cast your net wide, just kind of enjoying your life, being an engaged person, and kind of making the most of opportunities as they present themselves. So it's just can help make you successful as you think about how to kind of approach the process early. Okay. Winter and early spring, more or less kind of the phase that we're in now. Nail down your career goals. Ideally, nail down a job, right? It's much easier to work on your application and to kind of clarify how an MBA is going to help you and kind of how you're going to use your deferral period if you have a job. It's not the be all end all, but I would really, really encourage folks who think they want to have a deferred MBA to get a job lined up. It just gives the schools a lot more clarity on what you're going to be doing. So I would say, kind of think about your goals, think about your post or your kind of pre-MBA job, think about your post-MBA job and your long-term kind of career goals. Think about your experience, manage recommenders, and then just start working on those essays. Draft, iterate, draft, iterate, draft, iterate. If you don't have a test score that you're happy with, then, Hail Mary as need be. But ideally, and this is a general comment across all MBA programs, the sooner you can nail down a score, and get that out of the way and not have to be working on GMAT or GRE prep alongside your applications, the absolute better. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to have your goals completely locked in, but you want to have a sense of this impact. So again, just the more that you can kind of have a sense of the path, the easier it is for the admissions committee to understand how an MBA is going to help you. Okay. And then spring, that's kind of what we're in. Essays, resume, fill out your applications, chase those recommenders, and come April, submit. Okay. So I am taking a look through the comments, and I would also kind of mention to anybody, if there's anything in particular that you are worried about, please pop that in the comments as well, because I'm very glad to answer any questions that come up. So yeah, definitely let me know if there's anything in particular that you're anxious about. Okay. So in terms of Gatehouse, we have, you can see our consultants, a wide variety of folks. We've got experience at pretty much all of the top schools. We're obviously specialized to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, and the M7, but I would say we have experience with, schools in the US and Europe, all of the top 15 schools, even a little bit beyond that. And I would really encourage you to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, make access of our free resources. But I would also encourage you to have a free consultation with us. So you can go online. I think the link is in the comments, and it can be a really great way to review your profile with an expert and get personalized advice on, kind of how you might want to think about your profile. It's never too early to start. So even if you're thinking you might want to apply next year, have that conversation now, because as we talked about, there's lots of ways that you can improve your profile. And, the obvious ones are things like a test, right? Retaking the test, but there's other things like leadership, experiences. Maybe it's even just clarifying your goals. And sometimes having somebody as a sounding board, somebody to talk to, can be really, really useful as you go through it. So I'm going to wrap up with just a call to, suggest that you request a free consultation, and you can just go online to do that. And I'm also going to, one last time, ask anybody watching if they've got questions, because I would be very glad to answer any questions that have come up. And let me just take a peek through here. Okay. Well, let me think if I'm going to see, I think I don't see a ton of questions that have come up. And so with that, I am going to bid everybody goodbye. All right. Have a good afternoon or evening, depending on where you're looking from or listening from. And hope to see you soon at a free consultation.